Good morning and welcome to the Daily Cyber Briefing. I'm your host, Rich Benfield, standing in for Stephen Ridgway. It is Thursday, the 3rd of July and 8:30 in the morning. So, the headlines for you today. Cl0p ransomware's exfiltration process exposes RCE vulnerability. Cisco removed the Backdoor account from its unified communications manager. NimDoor crypto theft macOS malware revives itself when killed. And dozens of fake wallet add-ons flood Firefox store to drain crypto. So, to the top of the news. A newly disclosed vulnerability in the Python-based data exfiltration utility by the ransomware group has in itself to potential attack. What a shame. The flaw, catalogued as GCVE 1-2025-0002, was identified by Italian security researcher Lorenzo N. and published by the Computer Incident Response Center Luxembourg, Circle, on July the 1st, 2025. The vulnerability, rated 8.9 on the CVSS4 scale, is a classic case of improper input validation. The affected utility, widely deployed during Cl0p's high-profile 2023 to 2024 Move It campaigns, constructs operating system commands by directly concatenating attacker-supplied strings without any input sanitization. Specifically, an authenticated endpoint on the Cl0p operator's staging or collection host passes file or directory names received from compromised machines straight into a shell escape sequence. This design flaw creates a remote command execution risk. If a maliciously crafted folder or file name is processed by the exfiltration tool, arbitrary commands could be executed on Cl0p's own infrastructure. I cannot wait for somebody to take advantage of this. This is going to be hilarious. An authenticated endpoint on the Cl0p operator's staging and collection host passes file directory names received from compromised machines straight into a shell escape sequence, Circle summary states. Ironically, the vulnerability could be exploited by Cl0p's rivals or other attackers to disrupt the group's operations or steal its data, using the very tool designed to siphon information from victims. Security experts note that no official patch or cooperation from the malware authors is expected, leaving the group's infrastructure exposed to potential counterattacks. Alexandre Deloigne, head of Circle, commented that the Cl0p team is unlikely to address the flaw. This leaves the ransomware as a service operation vulnerable to exploitation by threat actors who may wish to sabotage or infiltrate Cl0p's backend. I'm not saying they should be disrupted. I'm not saying you should disrupt them, of course. So Cl0p, also known as TA505, has built a reputation as one of the most damaging ransomware groups, frequently leveraging zero-day vulnerabilities for mass data theft. In the Move It transfer attacks of 2023 to 2024, Cl0p exploited an unknown SQL injection flaw to compromise hundreds of organizations, exfiltrating sensitive data before demanding ransom. Typically, Cl0p's attack chain involves initial access via phishing or exploitation of software flaws, then lateral movement and evasion using tools like Mimikatz and Cobalt Strike, data exfiltration with custom utilities such as the now vulnerable Python tool, and extortion through threats of data leaks, DDoS, or harassment. With no expectation of a fix from Cl0p's developers, the vulnerability remains a rare example of a cybercriminal tool exposing its operators to the same risks they impose on their victims. Security professionals suggest that the flaw could become a new vector for disrupting ransomware operations from within the criminal ecosystem itself. Well, how about that then? That's interesting. Next up, Cisco have addressed a static SSH credentials vulnerability in its unified communications manager. The flaw tracked as CVE 2025-20309 with a CVSS score of 10 in Cisco Unified Comms Manager and its Session Management Edition. This is something, by the way, that we've reported on previously in a daily cyber briefing. It's not often that a vendor gets a perfect 10 on a score, on a CVSS score. They had hard-coded root credentials, which were set during development, which made it into production. So basically, that provides an open door for remote attackers. So Cisco Unified Communications Manager is a call processing system developed by Cisco for enterprise-level voice, video, messaging, and mobility communications. The static credentials can't be changed or deleted, and if attackers exploited this issue, they can access a system with full root privileges and run any command. No authentication is needed, making this a serious risk for affected devices. So they put an advisory out, and it says pretty much exactly what I've just told you. But there's a link to it in the article, and as per usual, the articles will be in the comments or the description in all the social feeds related, obviously, to this cast. So the company addressed the issue by removing the Backdoor account from its Unified Comms Manager. The vulnerability impacts Cisco Unified CM and Unified CM SME Engineering Special Releases 15.0.1.13010-1 through to 15.0.1.13017-1, regardless of configuration. These ES versions are limited fixed releases shared only through Cisco TAC. There are no workarounds to address this vulnerability. Admins are recommended to upgrade to an appropriate fixed software release. Just a note on that. It says there are no workarounds to address this vulnerability. That's absolutely true, because these credentials are hard-coded in, which is why you need to get the update through Cisco TAC. Okay. So the good news is that Cisco PCERT is not aware of any attacks exploiting this vulnerability in the wild. That is good news. Cisco provides IOCs for detecting devices potentially affected by the recent vulnerability. A key IOC is a successful SSH login by the root user, which appears in the system log. This logging is enabled by default. To check, use the CLI command file get active log space syslog/secure. Look for entries showing both SSHD and a root login session. Details of that command and the vulnerability are in the article, as I mentioned earlier, that will be linked on the socials. Okay, next up, this one's from Bleeping Computer, and it's NimDoor crypto theft. macOS malware revives itself when killed. So North Korean state-backed hackers have been using a new family of macOS malware called NimDoor in a campaign that targets Web3 and cryptocurrency organizations. Researchers analyzing the payloads discovered that the attacker relied on unusual techniques and a previously unseen signal-based persistence mechanism. The attack chain, which involves contacting victims via Telegram and luring them into running a fake Zoom SDK update delivered via Calendly and email, resembles the one Huntress managed security platform recently linked to Blue Noroff. So in a report today, researchers at Sentinel-1 says that the threat actor used a C++ and Nim compiled binaries, collectively tracked as NimDoor, on macOS, which is a more unusual choice. One of the Nim compiled binaries, called installer, is responsible for the initial setup and staging, preparing directories and config paths. It also drops two other binaries, Google LLC and CoreKit agents, onto the victim's system. Note that Google is swapping the L for a capital I, so it looks similar. So it's technically Googie LLC. And Googie LLC takes over to collect environment data and generate a hex-encoded config file, writing it to a temp path. It sets up a macOS launch agent, com.google.update.plist for persistence, which relaunches Googie LLC at login and stores authentication keys for later stages. The most advanced component used in the attack is CoreKit agent, the main payload of the NimDoor framework, which operates as an event-driven binary using macOS's KQ mechanism to asynchronously manage execution. It implements a 10K state machine with a hard-coded state transition table, allowing flexible control flow based on runtime conditions. The most distinctive feature is its signal-based persistence mechanisms, where it installs custom handlers for SIGINT and SIGTERM. These are signals typically used to terminate processes, but when either is caught, CoreKit agent triggers a reinstallation routine that redeploys Googie LLC, restoring the persistence chain. When triggered, CoreKit agent catches these signals and writes a launch agent for persistence, a copy of Googie LLC as the loader, and a copy of itself as the Trojan, setting executable permissions on the latter two via the add execution permissions user_user95 startup95 main z utils_u32 function, explains Sentinel Labs. Well, that was a mouthful, as these things often are. So again, check out this article. Links are in the socials. This behavior ensures that any user-initiated termination of the malware results in a deployment of the core components, making the code resilient to basic defensive actions. So CoreKit agent decodes and runs a hex-encoded Apple script that beacons to attacker infrastructure every 30 seconds, exfiltrates system data, and executes remote commands via OSA script, providing a lightweight backdoor. Okay. Overall, the NimDoor framework and the rest of the backdoors Sentinel Labs analysed are some of the most complex macOS malware families linked to North Korean threat actors. The malware's modularity, which gives it flexibility, and the use of novel techniques like signal-based persistence indicate that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea operators involve their toolkit to extend their cross-platform capabilities. Sentinel Labs report includes indicators of compromise for the domains, file paths, scripts, and binaries the North Korean threat actor used in attacks aimed at stealing cryptocurrency assets and sensitive information. And finally, this morning, dozens of fake wallet add-ons flood Firefox store to drain crypto. So more than 40 fake extensions in Firefox's official add-on store are impersonating popular cryptocurrency wallets from trusted providers to steal wallet credentials and sensitive data. Some of the extensions pretend to be from wallets from Coinbase, MetaMask, Trust Wallet, Phantom Exodus, OKX, Kepler, and MyMonero, and include malicious code that sends stolen information to attacker-controlled servers. Now, in this article, there's a couple of screenshots of the add-on store. So do jump in via the links that we're going to post in the socials and take a look, because it's always good to see these things in the flesh, so to speak. Researchers at Cl0p found the risky extensions, along with evidence indicating that behind the campaign is a Russian-speaking threat group. In a report shared with Bleeping Computer, the researchers say that many of these browser add-ons are clones of open-source versions of legitimate wallets with added malicious logic. Cl0p presents examples of input and click event listeners in the code which monitor for sensitive data inputs from the victim. Again, you can see these code snippets in the screenshots in the article, so do follow the links. The code checks for input strings that are longer than 30 characters to filter for realistic wallet keys and seed phrases and exfiltrates the data to the attackers. Error dialogues are hidden from the user by setting the opacity to 0 for any elements that might alert the user of the activity. Seed phrases are master keys typically comprising multiple words, allowing users to recover or port wallets to new devices. Obtaining someone's seed phrase makes it possible to steal all the cryptocurrency assets in the wild. The theft appears as a legitimate transaction and is irreversible. The campaign has been active since at least April, and new extensions appear to be added to the Firefox store constantly. The researchers say that the newest malicious entries are as recent as last week. To build trust, the threat actors use the real logos of the brands they impersonate, while many of the extensions have hundreds of fake 5-star reviews. Some of them also have a large number of 1-star reviews reporting the scam, likely from users that lost their cryptocurrency. Although most of the user reviews are obviously fake, they surpass the installation figure by far. Many users not paying attention to the details could still be tricked into installing them and risk their seed phrases being stolen. Mozilla has developed an early detection system for crypto scam extensions. It relies on automated indicators for assessing the risk level. If a threshold is reached, human reviewers analyze a submission and block it if it's malicious. Cl0p told Bleeping Computer that they reported the findings to the Firefox store using the official reporting tool, but the fake extensions continue to be available at the time of writing. Bleeping Computer has reached out to Mozilla for a comment on the matter, and a spokesperson sent us the following. We are aware of attempts to exploit Firefox's add-ons ecosystem using malicious crypto stealing extensions. Through improved tooling and processes, we have taken steps to identify and take down such add-ons quickly. We recently published a blog post covering this threat and how we are addressing it to continue to protect Firefox users. Cl0p's report details part of this larger trend. Many of the extensions mentioned in the report have already been removed by Mozilla's add-on review team before publication, as well as dozens of others that have been submitted recently. We are in the process of reviewing the remaining few add-ons they identified as part of our ongoing commitment to protecting users. Okay, so be careful if you're dealing with cryptocurrencies, and especially when using Firefox browser extensions. Okay, so that concludes today's daily cyber briefing, probably just as well because I seem to have lost the ability to speak coherently. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 8:30 sharp. Do tune in, or whatever the modern day equivalent of that is, and I'll speak to you then. Normal service from Stephen will be resumed on Monday. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.